One of Thomas Hardy's, I love Thomas Hardy, one of my favourite novelists. One of his most popular novels now comes with a trigger warning because Far From the Madding Crowd, apparently, is upsetting to young university students. Tim Storia, what do you make of that?
Well, I don't fully understand any of this, but what I would question is why are they doing it? It tends to always be something else. Why? If you take these sections of British culture out, if you say take Thomas Hardy out, take Shakespeare out, say take Elgar out, you take all this out, you substantially weaken what one would refer as British culture. Now, my question would be, why are they doing it? Is it to do that, to weaken Britain? Is it by destroying her culture? Does it weaken the nation? I would say it certainly does, and I think that may be part of the agenda.
You famously make some amazing and wonderful statues. Do you think? What do you think of statues being cancelled?
I think it's very sad. These things represent history, and they'll regret it. I mean, they'll be melted down for wiring to wire up TVs to the Chinese internet. I don't understand why they're doing it. It's a very, very short-sighted process. And curiously enough, the French have had nothing to do with it. They said, we're not going to do that, and it's been effective.
Tim Burrows, Thomas Hardy, is he offensive?
Well, to go back to your original question, it's not a trigger warning. If you read the article, they call it a content note. It's telling people some of the themes they're going to read.
Alexandra's huffing and puffing here. Alexandra, jump in.
They're not banning the books.
It's called a content warning because they cancelled trigger warnings because that was a triggering concept. So that's why they changed the language around trigger warnings. It's still essentially the same thing. I'm so disappointed in my generation. I mean, what are we going to learn? Are they going to put trigger warnings on just existence? What happens when history starts happening to these people? I mean, I don't know.
So Tim Burrows, trigger warning or not, is it acceptable that someone tells you what's in the book you're going to read?
I'm genuinely puzzled why anyone would have a problem with telling people some of the topics they're about to read. Surely that's just information disclosure. Why would you even be terrified of reading a warning or a note?
But why does Thomas Hardy need a warning? What is in Far From the Madding Crowd that deserves a warning?
Well, I must admit, I'm not much of a reader, Rowan, so I haven't read Far From the Madding Crowd. But
Tim Storia, what in Far From the Madding Crowd could possibly be worthy of a warning?
Well, don't look at the film with Terence Stamp in it, I think. The book itself is magnificent, and it is a fair description of the conditions in Britain at that time, and they were very severe. But the point is, if they're troubled by that, what are they going to do with history? I mean, how are they going to describe D-Day? The Holocaust, what do they do with those? Have they got trigger warnings on them? You can't read history, is that it? Where's this go? It's absolutely absurd.
Let's be clear, trigger warnings were put on the internet originally to protect children who are reading things on the internet that maybe they shouldn't be for their age. And now we're making trigger warnings on adult books for university students as if they were kids. And that's what this is. It's an infantilizing of our education system.
Tim Burrows?
Hey, look, I'm going to give you $1 to spend here, Rowan. Yeah. Trigger warnings. The word trigger warning was to warn people who'd had some form of trauma and they were triggered by it. But then, and here's where you can spend $1 on my behalf.
Yep.
Right-wing warriors stole the phrase and tried to make it about politics.
Oh, Tim, but they didn't work. They did this huge university study about trigger warnings to see if they actually reduced suffering. And guess what? They didn't. On balance, they made people more upset. So the whole concept should be just binned.
But so Tim Burrows, what makes it right-wing to object to great classical works of art or literature, having someone else put their own interpretation on them that becomes kind of the guiding light?
Well, I think, of course, any book that's set for a university course, of course, there's interpretation because people have chosen the books they put on the reading list. Somebody is making that interpretation.
OK, I'm going to stop you there. Tim Storia, would you appreciate it?
I said right as well. If you hadn't stopped me there, you'd have got another $1, Rowan.
OK, well, I'll take the $1 anyway. Tim Storia, very quickly before we go, would you accept trigger warnings or interpretations or content warnings, whatever Tim Burrows wants to call them, on your paintings?
No.
Why not?
Well, it would depend by whom, but even then, I mean, why would you accept? What is a trigger warning? It's a type of censorship. That's what it really is. So I'd object to it deeply.
Okay, so no trigger warnings permitted on any Tim Storyar works, which are amongst our greatest works of art. So I'm glad we're not doing that. Tim Burrowes, Tim Storyar, and Alexandra Marshall, thank you so much for coming here this evening.